So back in 2018, I started on my own weight loss journey. I lost 75 pounds in less than a year. I did it using the keto diet, mainly because I had issues with my lower back and I couldn't move. I had debilitating sciatica that I couldn't even be on my feet for more than 10 minutes, more than 5 minutes without being in excruciating pain. It was hard for me to even shower. And all the doctors told me, lose 10, 20 pounds, and then we'll talk about pain management. Or they shoved nerve pain medication at me and said, go take this, diet and exercise. And I was like, okay. I remember one doctor, he told me, and it was the last time I weighed before the start of my weight loss journey. And he went to tell me how much I weighed. And I said, I don't want to know. Don't tell me, please. And he said, well, you're borderline obese. He said, you need to start working on your calories. He said, there's trackers, there's apps I can use. And I was like, yeah, okay. Just help me so I can walk without crying. And so I ended up going to a chiropractor who referred me to another chiropractor. And I did a DTS treatment, which coincidentally, I ended up getting a ruptured disc in my lower back. And that was where the sciatica came from. I was on nerve pain blocker medication, and I just felt absolutely useless. I couldn't move. I couldn't get up. I had to cancel all of my photo sessions. I had to cancel all of my subbing jobs. I was just like, I can't work. And I remember it was my husband at the time. It was his birthday. And I sat on the edge of my bed just in tears because I hurt. And the one pair of pants that fit me, of course, I had to break the zipper around the button so the zipper would stay up because they were very tight. But I couldn't get them over my legs because I hadn't worn them in like a month since my injury. And I just broke down and cried. I actually had to put on maternity pants. They were the only things that fit me. And I went to my husband's birthday dinner and smiled for photos. But I remember that was crying on that bed before we had to leave. That was my moment. I remember calling my dad and saying, how am I going to lose weight? I can't even get up. What am I supposed to do? And he said, just do what you can. Focus on your food. He said, I'm trying this new low carb diet. It was back in 2018. And I said, okay, I'm willing to do it. And so he said, download this particular app. So I downloaded the app. And he said, go on this guy's YouTube page. And he knows everything there is to know about the keto diet. It was Dr. Berg on YouTube. And man, I lived on his page. Every question I had, he had a video for it. It was awesome. Or I'd ask my dad. I downloaded cheat sheets. I just did every time I encountered any type of friction, I solved it. And I made it very obvious. I would put guides, I would put worksheets, I would put all sorts of things up to remind myself, to tell myself, here's what we can do, here's what we can't do. Unfortunately, I was in a very toxic environment and relationship with no support. I had no friends. And once I started really on my weight loss journey, it was difficult to keep friends. And I wasn't even from the area. I was a transplant from California, San Francisco Bay Area. The rural South was very different. I had a lot of adapting to do. I didn't have a lot of money. I had to ask my friends for clothes, smaller clothes that I could fit into, because I was losing all this weight and I had no money. I had to figure out how to eat within my goals on a very limited budget. I wanted to still be able to eat with my family, but I knew that I couldn't eat what they were eating, what I was cooking for them. And yeah, I cooked 2 meals. A lot of the time I just ended up shortcutting to salads because it was easier. I could just grab a salad, add some extra chicken, and sit down with my family and eat. Enjoy their presence, because that's what sitting down and really enjoying is all about, right? And then once I lost all the weight, I looked in the mirror and said, this is not what I looked like when I was 20. This is not what I looked like before I had kids, because I had had 3 kids at that point. And my body was very different. Everything was different. Everything sagged. Because I was not doing, the only thing I was doing at the time was walking. Because as soon as I started losing weight, as soon as I was able to start stretching, start learning that the movement was really helping my back, I would just start doing little walks. Walk down the street and back, walk down the dirt road and back, and then I was up to 4 miles a day, every day of the week. But once I saw that I needed more, I said, Dad, everything's loose, like everything's jiggly. What do I do now? And he said, join a gym. So I joined a gym, and I loved it. It was great. I had to relearn about nutrition because I developed this aversion to carbs, and I needed to learn how to accept all foods, mindset-wise, and know that everything is there to fuel and to help me get to where I want to be. And all of these things I had to learn on my own. I Googled things. I looked at YouTube videos. I read books. I didn't have anybody to talk to except for my dad. I started strength training. And then I remember going up to a woman in my town and said, hey, you've got a great butt. How do I get that butt? And she said, oh, I found an influencer on Instagram called Booty King. You should follow him. And I was like, oh, that was my first fitness influencer I followed. And yeah, I loved it. I bought his program. It was like $50 for the whole thing. It was like 8 weeks. Started doing it, and I was so scared of hurting my back. So I saw a woman in the gym who was helping other women. And I finally got the guts to say, hey, I don't mean to interrupt, but are you a personal trainer? And she said, yeah. And I was like, would you work with me? I said, I got a bad lower back, but I really want to work on my lower body. I want to make sure I don't hurt myself. And she said, absolutely. So that's when I started working with the trainer. She was great. She was so great. I really got the understanding of what I could and couldn't do, how to determine how my form should be. But there were still questions I had. I wanted to learn why I had to have perfect form. I wanted to learn why I had to have clean form. I just knew that I had to do it so I didn't hurt myself. But I didn't learn the mechanics of how my body moved. So once I started my fitness journey, my confidence started building. And I did eventually get brave enough to leave my first marriage. I was able to take back that part of myself. However, since my mindset, I didn't quite work on my mindset for that fitness journey. I jumped right into another toxic relationship, which I ended up not taking care of myself. I was in survival mode. I gained 20 pounds back. I was like, oh no, I'm doing this again. So I ended up getting out of that relationship and meeting my second husband, who was a weight loss coach online. And gosh, he taught me everything I needed to know about nutrition, about mindset, about how to take care of my body, how to take care of myself in maintenance. I learned a lot of way other things career-wise, but the biggest thing was the mindset work. Learning how important it is and watching him coach others in the mindset work was so beneficial for me because I knew what I needed. And unfortunately, I learned that I needed extra support from professionals. I needed more of a team around me, not just a marriage therapist, but I needed my own therapist. I needed a psychiatrist to help me with medication. I needed to have friends around me. I needed to have a community. And I got all of those things. And I really still wasn't doing well because I had all of the tools in my hands, but I didn't apply them to me. I just kept handing them to others. Here, look, this is how you do it. This is how you do it. Love yourself. Be kind to yourself. But I wasn't looking out for me. I kept putting myself aside. And that wasn't aligned with who I wanted to be. And I kept having these conflicts, these inner conflicts with, this is how I want to be for my community, and this is how I actually am. And I wasn't as strong as I tried to be, and I wasn't as controlled, and I wasn't as kind to myself as I told others to be to themselves. I had to go through another hard period of my life. And after the second marriage, actually, it was at the very end of that second marriage that I truly discovered what I always wanted to do. And that was, I wanted to be able to have this information to teach others, and I wanted to have it for myself. And I just didn't know how to get it. And I got it through NASM, through the National Association of Sports Medicine. I got the certification as a personal trainer, and it was the best decision I ever made. I'm so glad I went that route, because NASM focuses on the science base, on a lot of the studying is about human anatomy, about how your body works, the science, the mechanics, the engineering of how your body moves and works and gets stronger and goes through different emotional processes and goes through, how your body, everything your body does to keep you alive every day, and what would benefit the best for my body to keep me going for as long as possible. So once I realized that I was so excited after I got my certification, because I knew that this community I helped build and I loved with all of my heart, I could actually help them with what they were wanting, or with their goals, with their whys. I could understand them. I knew where they were at. And I knew how lonely it could be. I knew how confusing and overwhelming it could be. And I had broken down everything I learned into little digestible chunks for me to understand and to absorb. So once I was able to start being able to deliver this, all this knowledge that I learned, it was hard when it was taken away from me overnight. Everything I loved, my entire community was gone. But I had all that knowledge. I didn't know what to do with it. So I just kept going. I built my own community, a safe space for people to come and gather, to work on themselves, to fill the gaps of knowledge that they never learned, and to do it in a place where there's no shame, there's no judgment, there's just love and support and accountability. And it's fun. And you have your friends around you, and you have people also working on themselves and also wanting to talk about it. And so that's what I'm building. So any endeavor I encounter, anything that I approach in my career, I'm going to bring all of this with me. All of this knowledge, all of this love, all of this, all of this love. Everything I learned in my own journey to build self-trust, to become loyal to myself. Everything I learned is what I poured into my community. I was able to lay out all the knowledge that I've learned in a way that I was able to understand, because there's a lot of concepts that went over my head and I didn't understand what they meant or how to apply it to my life. So as I would research and look up things, I would find out ways that not only why things are the way they are, why they work the way they work, but how I can change and how I can apply the new way and how that new way will apply to my life in a beneficial way. It's like, I just kept building, like, this is why we're doing this. This is why we keep going. This is the way, and I'm going to guide you. And that's what I do. I am a certified personal trainer. I'm also training for my nutrition coach certification, and I'm a photographer, and I'm a life coach. I am that unbiased person on the outside, friend that you can talk to, that you can ask questions, and I will wholeheartedly and lovingly and gently answer. There's a lot of shame around not knowing how to take care of ourselves and not knowing how to take care of our bodies, to the point where we won't participate in it because we're afraid to ask. So I wanted to create a space for people to come and talk and ask questions and learn how they can come back to themselves, how they can come back home to themselves and take care of themselves and become loyal to themselves. I just wanted to share my story a little bit and let you guys know who I am and what my goal is, what my outcome for you is. If you work with me, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for someone who is ready to start building the self-trust, to stop abandoning themselves, to stop going against their intuition, their gut, who overrides what they need for others, and to just be in this constant turmoil, suffering state with all of this anxiety, all of this tension, all of this survival mode mentality. It's exhausting. We should put your energy somewhere else. So let's unload all of that responsibility that you're carrying for the world. And we're going to focus that energy on you. That's who I am. You can find me on Facebook at Becoming Hub, or you can find me on YouTube, The Becoming Hub. You can find me on Instagram, Becoming Hub Candace. And my website is www.thebecominghub.org. See you around.